Yep. Right. Okay. That's exactly what they need to hear, me clearing my throat, right?
Well, I unmuted it, so whenever.
Welcome to the DG Podcast. This is episode 119B. That's right, we do A and B episodes of our podcast.
Don't think about it.
If you didn't catch the first one, you can always go back. So
don't go back. Just keep moving forward. We become even more irrelevant as time goes on.
That's true, because we're in a very fluid media.
I guess so. Are we even part of the media?
Well, we probably would like to be, at least.
I have some stuff, or some news I could talk about on that end.
Well, go ahead.
Chance posted, he sent me a message a few days back, and he posted the last podcast on the Facebook page for the Retro VGS, the Retro Video Game System.
Set it up.
Well, we talked about it on the last podcast.
Right. And so, the Retro VGS, if you're not sure what that is, it's
I think it was in the last podcast.
Yeah, it was.
It's a retro console. At any rate, he posted our discussion from the last podcast onto their Facebook page. And apparently they didn't like our commentary. Chance quoted it as saying they are so wrong about their assessment. And you know what? Fine. Whatever. And I told Chance, I was like, look, if they want to correct some of the information that we shared, then I will correct some of the facts, because I might get some of the facts wrong. Because to be fair, some of the information I got was sort of third hand, second hand.
Right.
Not directly from them. I might have gotten some of the, like, how they're building it, their relationship with the guy that was building the prototype or whatever. But the facts remain. They don't have a prototype. It costs $300. They're charging extra, like $150 for special editions.
Right. When they don't have a prototype. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like they don't have their crap together. And so they weren't happy. Here's the amusing part. We had a guy post on the YouTube channel. He didn't post negative. He was super, like, positive. Like, he was just trying to correct us and stuff, which was fine. And he goes, I hope you don't mind me posting this link. So I just approved it. I was like, that's fine. And it was a link to a video where the guy was basically frantically trying to deal with a backlash from the internet. And he was talking about how they're working on a prototype, even though one doesn't exist. They're working on it, and it's coming. And he sat in front of a table with just a bunch of junk on it, like, look at all this stuff. See all this stuff behind me, like I'm working on something? All this stuff suggests that as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to turn and I'm going to keep working on it, because I'm working on the prototype. And that's great. And I not only approve the guy's comment, but I thumbs it up, because I like it when people disagree with the stuff that we put out, and I approve of him going out of his way to make a comment to try and correct us. And if you guys love the Retro VGS, don't assume that simply because we did a non-glowing review of it, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go get it. If you're 100% into it, go for it. And if you disagree with us, then disagree with us. That's awesome. I don't care. But it seemed like it wasn't the greatest thing to get behind, to be fair.
Well, there's a lot of problems with it. Like you said, the prototype for it doesn't exist. It's based on technology that's 20 years old.
Why are they doing a cartridge base? There's no purpose for it besides nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real good reason to build a new cartridge-based console. It doesn't...
We moved away from cartridges for several reasons. One, they're not as good as discs. Two, the contact points wear out.
I saw a guy
That's about
arguing with them. It's like, well, they last longer than CDs because CDs have something called CD rot. I was like, I've never heard of CD rot. I went and looked it up. It's not. It's like a thing, but it's not like CDs rot like an old piece of bread.
Right.
It's like over decades, and they count CD rot along with like scratches on the discs. I was like, well, if you take care of your discs, that's not really an issue, is it?
That's not going to happen.
But he's like, this is a serious problem, and cartridges last way longer than CDs do. And I was like,
Yeah, I have CDs now that have lasted way longer than any cartridge I ever had, because you're putting it in the thing and you're pulling it out and it wears off the contact points, and once the contact points are gone, your cartridge is gone.
Well, the contact points are also made of copper.
Yeah.
And they get buildup on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's constant cleaning, and you don't have to do that with a CD. You just stick it in. Maybe if it's a little dirty, you go, and then you kind of wipe it on your shirt. You don't get a clean cloth and go to the bathroom and wash it off. You breathe on it and wipe it on your shirt. That's how a man does it.
Actually, I found what works really, really well for for cleaning CDs is Pledge. The furniture polish. It works awesome. CDs.
One thing I would say about the retro VGS when it comes to that sort of thing is they seem very aggressive as far as defending themselves.
Yeah.
First thing,
Maybe a little too.
well, first thing,
there.
if it comes to defending yourself, especially with a group like us where we're so sort of like piddly dink and we're out of their radar, don't respond to us. Don't play into the game, because not only does it give us more attention, but we're so under your radar that responding to us sort of brings you down a little bit to our level. Don't do that. A smart person wouldn't just weigh in with every moron who makes a comment about your new console that doesn't exist, and you're already trying to charge people money for it. And it was a disaster. The Indiegogo is a disaster. I don't know if it's still running, but it is not doing well.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. They want $2 million.
Yeah,
fund this
it was $2 million or about $2 million, but it just seemed
So-
way too much for what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Like a guy with ingenuity could put it together for less. Why are they
Right.
charging $2 million? Are they trying to give everybody a decent paycheck for
Could be.
nothing?
Or at least
But-
give themselves a decent paycheck, right?
Well, wait
Sorry,
until you
people.
have the console produced, till you can start selling it, and then pay yourself off of the sales. But I think they realize it's a niche market and they're not going to get a huge amount of money off of it. And this is sort of we get the Kickstarter money or the Indiegogo money, and then we add the few sales we get over time, and then we won't get any more, and hopefully like money from developers that sell on it. But this isn't going to be a big thing where people are going to buy a crap load of it. It's not going to explode like an Ouya or something.
Right. And I went to their website to look at some of the things that they were showing. Because they said that they've got people who are willing to develop cartridges for their system.
That's awesome.
They're not AAA titles.
No. You're not going to get any AAA titles for this console, let me tell you that.
So, it could be that even though their cartridges are based on 25-year-old tech, that they've upgraded a lot of stuff, so they've gone to solid state so that they can get a lot of memory in there, they can fit a lot of stuff on the cartridge and things, but you're not going to see a Sega, you're not going to see a Nintendo, you're not going to see BioWare, you're not going to see...
They wish.
Yeah, exactly. They wish.
The best thing that could happen to their console is they had one good title.
They're going to have...
One.
I looked at some of the things, and they're pretty much all indies, and they look like old-time 8-bit games. So...
Good luck to them. I don't want them to fail necessarily. I would like to see them succeed because it seemed like an interesting idea. But it's an outdated idea, and I don't think it's time for them to... I'm going to adjust my mic, so it's going to screw up the audio. I don't think it's time for another console, another retro console. I don't really think... And part of it is the retro scene has gotten huge again, and everybody wants to participate on it.
It's... Last week I mentioned when we were talking about this, I was thinking that it was they were making a console to play old cartridges.
No, those exist. They've already tried to make those before. And
I remembered afterwards that I had heard of the retro VGS, and I knew that it wasn't that it was. It's just been so long since we talked about it. It came up in the news recently, but it's one of those things. It's like. I can understand wanting to play those old games and wanting to create something that would allow you to have that experience again. But I can't understand why you would want to do it now. It doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I think we've said our piece. But like I said before, don't weigh into the mud with guys like us. You're wasting your time.
Although, if you do, it might boost our rating.
Oh, yeah. So that's awesome. We'll get back on and be like, oh, these douchebags or whatever. I flat out told Chance, I was like, if they want to correct some of the facts and stuff, if we got something wrong, then we'll correct some of the facts. If they want us to retract our opinions on it, then no, they can go screw themselves. I literally told Chance that, and I was like, you can tell him. He wasn't going to care or...
the thing is that they kind of lost Chance. Chance was a huge fan of the retro.
He was pushing us to talk about it. I didn't care. He wanted us to do like a interview with these guys and stuff, and I was like, eh. And I think what dumped Chance wasn't so much the stuff that was going out that we complained about, was how badly they acted when it came to the negative feedback that they took on the internet, on their Facebook page as well as Twitter and stuff. Apparently the guy was like calling people names and stuff. I was like, don't.
That's so professional, people.
You're relying solely...
We get to do that because we're not an unprofessional podcast. You're building a product. You need to be outstanding and professional.
Especially for a project like this, they're relying solely on the goodwill of the fans to get this thing paid for and out the door, and then people actually purchasing it. That's it. And if you can't maintain the goodwill of the fans, then it's just not going to go anywhere.
No. And it already looks like it's failing, so...
Whatever.
Well, good luck to them. We don't want you to fail.
It's not in our wheelhouse. I think this is probably going to be the last time we talk about it unless big news hits that they somehow, succeed, or one of them commits suicide using the old, Atari Jaguar shells because they have nothing to put inside of it. They have nothing to put inside of it, so he's like, I'll give you a prototype, and tries to jam his child into it or something. Just make it worse.
Yeah, exactly. Anything new for you?
As far as this week, Lindsay's been up to a lot of work for vet school. She had this huge test on Friday, and then she had another test on Monday. And she started studying Sunday, and then studied all the way into today. And I think she stayed up for 34 or 37 hours or something like that. Just studying to get the stuff done. And she posted a message on Facebook saying something like, I've just been up for 37 hours. If anybody needs me, I'm going to be in a coma. And then that was just it. And just before the podcast, she sent me a message to ask how my night was or whatever. So I called her, and it sounded like I woke her up. I was like, did I wake you up? She's like, I was just about to fall asleep. And I was like, well, go to sleep and not talk to me. I've been playing a lot of Phantom Pain. Right. The game is good, and I have minor problems with it. Which is fine. It's sort of the same old. The story isn't everything it's cracked up to be. And Metal Gear Solid is supposed to be a geopolitical soap opera. Right. And it's not the geopolitical soap opera that it is right now, and it's disappointing. The story's very hands-off. Apparently, I think we talked about this last week. They lost. There was a plan for a third chapter, for a third area to go to, and that was cut. And that might be as a result of sort of the Konami Kojima thing, where it just got left out because of the fallout between those two.
Right.
So it feels like it's an incomplete story. Huh. It's fun, though. The gameplay is fun, but gameplay isn't everything. And I have small gripes about how they go about the gameplay and the story, but I still enjoy it a lot. I think I would give it an 8 out of 10, probably.
Cool.
I'll just, and a lot of that's gameplay alone. I mean, I like the mission stuff, but I have a problem of doing the completionist thing like I do in Assassin's Creed.
Where you get all the achievements and...
Well, it's like in Assassin's Creed, I've played so many of them, and they have this big map, and there's all these stuff to do, and stuff to unlock, and chests to open, and you can do this, like, as soon as you go into free roam, even before, like, doing any of the major missions, just start running around and doing everything in the map. I've done so much on Assassin's Creed Unity, and I've barely done anything in the story. I've just been running around unlocking like towers and opening up chests and doing side missions.
When I played Fuel, it's a racing game that has kind of a story. I mean, it's not much of one, but you progress from area to area, and I found it more fun to just drive around in the free roam and unlock the little things that they had running around out there. That was much more fun to me than going through the races. So I stopped playing.
I'm sort of doing the same thing on Phantom Pain, where every time I accomplish a main mission, I go and do the bonus missions that I haven't done. All the side missions. So I go and hit all the side missions. And so I'll do a main mission, do all of the side missions that I haven't done before, and they'll actually repeat the side missions so that you can do them over again so you can get more money out of them and stuff.
Right.
And then I'll go back and do a main mission and do the side missions. And it's almost becoming work at this point where I'm just sort of like, I gotta kill these guys and finish this so I can move on in the story. And most people say, don't do that, you're sort of ruining the game for you. But I was like, honestly, if I'm going to enjoy it at all, I always do this in any game, and I kind of have to do all the extra bits before I can shift on in the story.
I'm a bit that way myself. It's kind of why I got bogged down on Kingdom of Amalur.
Yeah. And all the legal drama out of that thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I attempted to delve into what was going on with that, with the whole Rhode Island legal drama, and it's so bad and so complicated and so dirty. Like, they were having huge legal fights over who owned this or where the money was going to go or that sort of thing. It got to the point where I was like, I'm not gonna look.
Kingdom of Amalur, definitely an underrated game, but the thing is that there's so many side quests to go on. That you get kind of bogged down in all the little minutiae of doing all the side quests when there's the main story quest that's woven throughout the whole thing. And I don't like coming back to an area to do side quests. I hate it. I like to get everything done in one area and then move to the next area. And I realize that that may not be the way that they had designed the gameplay. It may have been go through the story as fast as you can and then go back and revisit the areas that you previously visited and do the rest of the stuff, but I really don't like doing that. There's something about it that's like, because a lot of times the areas themselves are set up in such a way that when you do the quests and stuff, if you move beyond that area, you're over level for if you go back to do those quests. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I like to finish stuff.
Yep, same here. So, couple things. You know how I am about movies and books that they were based on?
You're anal and unrepentive when it comes to it has to be perfect.
Okay, so I was at the...
It'll never be good enough for Jason, the purist.
Yeah. I was at the thrift store. It's Deseret Industries out here. And I picked up these two books. And they were the book 2 and 3 in the series called The Last Apprentice. They looked interesting. but they sat on my shelf for a while because I wanted to get the first book. In the meantime, while I was waiting to find the first book, I found out about this movie called Seventh Son, and I watched it.
It's got.
And it was okay.
It's got what's his
Wasn't
name?
Great, but it had one of the Bridges guys in it.
Jeff
I forget
Bridges.
which one. Jeff, yeah. He plays this guy they call the Spook, whose job is to go around and get rid of the nasties that inhabit the world. Well, all the people that he trains as apprentices have to be seventh sons of seventh sons, which used to be believed that seventh son of a seventh son was blessed somehow.
Can I intervene with the
Yeah,
dumbest interjection whatsoever?
Okay, go ahead.
Congressman from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Well, the Pope came into town,
Right.
went and spoke in Boston, Massachusetts, or something,
Right.
or maybe he spoke in Philadelphia. I don't know which one it was, but he had this big speech or whatever
Probably
at some
did
big
both.
church. Well, he went all over the place, but his biggest one, I think, was in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Anyway, the congressman from there,
Uh-huh.
when nobody was looking after the Pope was gone and left, he stole the half-drunk water from the podium that the Pope was drinking from, and then he posted pictures of himself online sipping from the cup, and then not even giving it to his wife to sip from, like pouring it into her mouth like it's a sacred relic, just sort of like
The
Let's
Pope
just-
drank from this plastic.
yeah. No, it was a glass cup,
plastic
but it was really awkward. And he posted something about how, like, I personally believe that anything the Pope touches or drinks become blessed, and nobody can tell me otherwise. Like he was prepared to make the argument with somebody already because he knew it probably sounded stupid, and he's like, nobody can tell me otherwise. This is already blessed. I stole his cup of water, and I've been drinking from it.
I'm
What
going
if
to be
he?
immortal.
What if the Pope has backwash?
Oh boy, that's
What if he has
awful.
papal backwash? That's ridiculous. Whatever he believes, that's awesome, but that's super creepy, dude. That's super creepy.
Yeah.
Do not. If I become a religious cult leader, hopefully in the future, cross your fingers. Don't.
The DG cult.
Yeah, don't worship my toilet as a blessed toilet, and don't sniff my old underwear. Let it go. Let it burn or whatever we need to do. Because I assume I'm going to have so much money, I'll wear a new pair every day, like Mayweather does. You hear about that?
No, I hadn't heard about
Mayweather spends thousands of dollars every year on underwear because he wears silk underwear and he never wears the same pair twice.
that. Oh man.
And he just burns them. Despite the fact that he won that fight like a douchebag against Pacquiao, Mayweather is still just a piece of crap. He's so full of himself. Anyway, Jason was talking about books, despite the fact that I interceded with, albeit entertaining facts.
It is an entertaining bit of trivia there. Yes. So anyway, I watched this movie, and there was something about it that triggered a recollection in my mind back to these two books that I picked up, and I thought,
I've
there a
got
connection?
the worst chair in the world. Keep going.
And it turns out there is a connection between the two. The first book in this series is what the movie is based on. So I was at the thrift store again on Friday, and lo and behold, there it was. There was the first book in the series. So I picked it up and I read it over the weekend. And oh my gosh, they got the names right. That's about it.
It's so. I've had that impression with like The Walking Dead, where they change a lot of stuff from the comics.
Uh-huh.
One thing I didn't add is I started watching the new Walking Dead series. I'm like on episode 4. I haven't watched 4 yet. I've watched the first 3. I'm not going to talk about it. It's good and bad at the same time. I have complaints, and then I'm like, wow, this is really good. I don't know what I think about it yet, but one thing I can say is to surmise the whole show. I would say the show is about how teenagers are morons and they do stupid things. Like, that's the whole theme of the entire show. Like, literally, the zombie apocalypse is starting. He calls his son, and he's like, and his son's not in school. He's not home, and he's this high school student. And he's like, where are you? We're going to come get you. We need to come get you right now. Because they're like, we got to get out of here. It's just the zombie apocalypse is happening. And his kid, this kid is at, no joke, and it was somewhat inappropriate because it came across as like slightly anti-cop. But the kid is at this place where the cops had shot this homeless guy, and they're like, the homeless guy wasn't doing anything when he was probably a zombie.
Okay.
And they shot him because he was like walking towards him and causing trouble, like being a zombie.
Right.
And everybody started getting upset, and a riot starts against the LAPD because they thought the LAPD was just shooting a homeless guy because I wanted to.
Of course.
And the guy's like, well, I'm coming to get you, and the son's like, no, I'm a part of this. I'm a part of this protest. Like, he's doing something noble by yelling and causing havoc. Like, this is how people see things now. Like, throwing rocks through windows somehow means that you're a good person and you're doing something good. Like, I'm creating awareness by causing destruction or something.
By rioting in the streets.
And that's the worst place you want to be when the zombie apocalypse happens, in the middle of a riot with hundreds of people. Right. I was like, he's the dumbest. Like, the girl did something stupid. Her boyfriend is sick, and they know that a disease is hitting the country, and people are getting sick, and it's out of control, and the people who get sick get aggressive, and it's weird, and they saw somebody with some symptoms and stuff, and the parents come home, and they had to run over a guy twice with their truck, and he still wouldn't die. He was just a zombie, and he still wouldn't die. And they get home, and they're calling their daughter. They're like, are you home? She's like, no, I'm with my boyfriend, and he's sick, and I can't leave him because I love him, or something stupid teenage drama.
So she gets turned into a zombie.
Well, no, so they rush to that house. You always jump to conclusions before I finish the stories. They rush to that house, and she's there, like, with him, and he's got this fever, and he's not doing so well and stuff, and they're like, you need to step away from him right now. She's like, what? She's like, there's some disease going around. It's really bad. Like, imagine if, like, even if it's your wife, and if somebody walked in the room and she's sick or something, and they're like, dude, the plague is somewhere around. You might just be like, okay, I'm going to step away and find somebody to help you. You know what I mean? But it doesn't do you any good to get sick, and it doesn't help, like, your kids to get sick because somebody has to watch your kids. You're not going to be like, I'm going to stay with them and get the plague too, or whatever. Because that's a romantic thing to do, to die with this kid that I've kind of known for a month in school or something. Right. And she's like, no, I love him. I can't leave him. I was like, your parents are freaking out because there's a disease, and you won't leave the kid who seriously looks like he has it. And then they find out he was bitten, and they're like, oh, he super has it. And she's like, I can't leave him. And then they finally convince her, and they're like, we're going to find a hospital, and they're calling and calling. And the hospital, all the lines are down because it's zombie apocalypse. They're full. They're full of people. And the hospital's like, they have a moment where they actually drive somebody to the hospital, and they go by it, and it's on fire. It's just the hospital's on fire. What do you get? I can't go to the hospital. It's on fire. And someone's like, should we go to another hospital? And one of the guys is like, no, they're probably all like that. And so they're sitting at home, and then she has that moment where she has to watch over her drug-addicted brother, who's going through withdrawals because of the zombie apocalypse, and he can't get drugs.
And he can't get his drugs.
and she's sitting there at home, and then she has this moment of, I need to go and take care of my boyfriend. He's like, you can't do that. The zombies and stuff. Like, he saw it all. He was the one that ran over the guy twice with his car. He's like, he won't die. I keep running over my drug dealer, and he won't die. He's like, you can't leave. It's really bad. She's like, I'm going to go because of love or something. I was like, don't. How come every teenager, whenever there's a crisis, does the dumbest things I can think of every time?
Because they're dumb teenagers.
It's like, what's the worst thing you can do with a serious outbreak? I'm going to go hang out with everybody I know that has it.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a serious outbreak in the country.
Run naked down the street smeared with bacon.
No. It's worse. There's a serious outbreak going on, and the neighbors across the street still decide to hold their child's birthday party. And they're like, a bunch of people are canceling. Do you guys want to come? A bunch of people are canceling because of the disease. Everybody's concerned. It's kind of crazy. And they've got like a bouncy castle that they're erecting outside and stuff.
They do.
And then they're like, oh yeah, well maybe we'll come over. And in the back of their minds, you're like, there's no way in hell we're going over to your we don't want to be there with a bunch of other people and everybody being sick. And then they have this really awkward moment. It's really awkward where they're sitting inside the house and they hear some screams or something. And they're looking through the window and they watch one of the people from next door being eaten by somebody else from the party. They're like, we should go out and help him. You're like, no, you do not go out and help that person. You do not have, not only do you not know how this is spread, but we clearly know that it's spread at least by biting. Do not go out there. Like, that person's already bitten. They're gone. Do not go out there and get involved. And that was the daughter who's freaking out. She's like, how do you go out there and help? And the mom literally has to go to the front door and just lock her inside. She's like, do not be a stupid teenager at this point. Every teenager in this show does the dumbest things you could think of. Worst thing you could think of in a zombie apocalypse. Hey, look, all this stuff is going on. I'm going to go to the most populated area where chaos is happening and people are like setting things on fire. I'm just going to hang out with those guys. I
might as well go down to the local zombie hangout and see if I can get bitten.
I can't say that it's improved my opinion of teenagers because I've already had a very low opinion of teenagers. Like when I was a teenager, my opinion was really low. Like I just hated the other teenagers. And I honestly think that the world would be a better place if it was legal to just randomly out of nowhere, all adults could just drill in the face, just one real hard. Like you got a free one for teenagers. Because in the past, especially in the animal kingdom, young are kept in line by the older ones because the older ones are just bigger and more aggressive. They keep them in line. But now It's like it's illegal to just go and wail on a teenager. So they're out of control. They can just do whatever they want to. And I'm not advocating violence on teenagers, but a little bit.
A little bit. So
you know what I mean?
Before
that wasn't even what I wanted to rant about, but if you end up having time, I can fill time.
Well, before I introduce what I wanted to talk about a little bit, I wanted to say, so if taken completely separate, the book is pretty good. It's like a young adult book, so it's not great. But it's pretty good. The movie also okay, pretty good. But if you try to draw parallels between the two, because it's like in the movie, it turns out that the spook was the witch's lover before he imprisoned her underground, and that's why she wanted revenge. And she wanted revenge against the spook for what he did to her. Well, in the book, she's imprisoned underground, but the spook never had any relationship with her at all. He imprisoned her underground. She eventually gets out. The apprentice actually kills her, and she comes after him for revenge because he killed her. And because she was such a powerful old witch, she could basically possess her own body, kind of thing. And then she went after him and his family. But it's like, how
Wait a minute.
did they get that story from this one?
So explain that.
Anyway,
how does she possess her own body?
Well, the way that
don't you naturally possess your own body?
Well, she's dead, so technically her spirit would go out, but because she's a witch, it could get trapped in her body. And she could animate it and become living dead.
But is she possessing it or just animating her corpse?
It's more like animating her corpse, but she
can
actually.
That was phrased weird because I was like, "How do you possess your own body? Aren't you kind of already possessing your own body?"
Yeah, but it's a living dead kind of thing. And
does that imply I'm a witch as well?
No, you don't have the pointy shoes. That was another.
I could
thing.
buy
it's
some.
So he's educating his apprentice on the spooks and things that the ghosts and boggarts and stuff that he has to take care of as the spook, and he tells him to not trust girls with pointy shoes. I mean, if the witches know that they're not supposed to be wearing pointy shoes, why are they going around wearing pointy shoes? It makes no sense. Anyway.
Yeah, get some acne cream, take care of your moles, don't wear the pointy hats, and stop cackling every time you ride an airplane. Like, that makes everything better and people less suspicious of you.
The other thing was that the apprentice in the book is like 13 years old, and in the movie he's like 19. And
it makes him the heartthrob. All the girls want to see
exactly. And he has he meets this girl who happens to be a witch, but she's not technically an evil witch yet, and so she's his love interest.
Do they evolve to be evil?
Huh?
Like it's implied that eventually all witches become evil?
No, it's implied that because she keeps company with this evil witch, that she could be influenced along that path. But if she gets away from her soon enough, then she can, again, in the movie, his mother didn't want him to become the apprentice of the spook. In the book, she wrote him a letter before he was born, wrote a letter to the spook and said, I'm about to give birth to the seventh son of a seventh son. He's going to be your apprentice. She wanted him to be the spook's apprentice.
Why don't you just stop having kids?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
It's like, literally, you could just, like, maneuver that so that it works out.
Uh-huh.
What if you're the seventh son of a seventh son of a seventh son?
That's a good question.
Are you just even better?
Maybe.
It's like I'm more powerful than the other 7 or whatever?
Yeah. Every time it's a seventh son, he gets an upgrade.
He becomes the one.
Yeah.
Like it.
Eventually, he becomes Jet Li.
He eventually becomes Jet Li, and he does weird things like swing, motorcycles and hit people with them. What a terrible movie. Like, part of it was cool and, like, the rock on, it's an awesome movie. Part of it was just dumb.
I had no kidding.
Like, really? And then for some reason, like the last two... Of the last two, one of them's a real nice guy and the other one's a douchebag. Of course, like, they can't just be like, oh, well, I'm just killing people or whatever.
What I never got was why there's a finite number of parallel universes.
Apparently, there's a bunch of parallel universes and they're all slightly different, but there's only like 100.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, well, there aren't so many options. They probably don't deviate super much between the two, between the 100.
Right. So,
one of them, you're clearly not a woman. But one of them, you're a little curious. That sort of makes up for it.
So last time we talked about Spiral Knights. Well, I got online and I started playing Path of Exile again.
It's actually a good basic Diablo clone.
Yeah, well,
I would say it's better than Diablo 3, but people will hate me for that. But anyway.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to hate Rhett, email us at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com.
I have a special email for that. Email me at what is it? Suck it, I don't care at CompuServe.com.
There you go. Sorry,
I think I also have a mirror email at, like, Netgear. Because that's still around.
Right.
Or Juno. Remember Juno?
Juno. I had a Juno account.
My mom still has a Juno account. It still exists. You can email her at Juno.
I probably have mine somewhere, too.
Yeah, so, they never get rid of them. It just compiles into, like, the great list of super emails.
So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be said about Path of Exile.
Just comment below. I don't care.
What was that?
Just comment below. I don't
care.
There you go. In the comment section. And then send me a polite message with a rebuttal video of how they are working on a prototype.
There you go. So, yeah, Path of Exile, there's a lot to be said about Path of Exile, but there's a couple of game mechanics that, I don't know, I'm not really sold on yet. The first one is the passive skill tree, and the second is your active skills.
I love passive skills. They're the best skills.
Passive skills are awesome. It's the tree that I'm not sure about.
Oh, so you're just not a fan of how they structure their leveling system and stuff?
Have you seen the passive skill tree?
I haven't gotten super far into it. It's like I've gotten to the second area, and that was sort of it.
The passive skill tree is best described, in my opinion, as a passive skill spider web. It's not so much a tree as it is maybe, spaghetti dumped on a plate. There's just so many branchings and so many ways to go around that it's hard to tell what you're doing and what you're going to. You almost have to have a guide to get from point A to point B on the skill tree to make any sense of it.
You know what's worse is Final Fantasy 12.
That's actually what I was wanting to talk about. I was wanting to know what skill trees that we thought of that were good uses of skill trees and good structure that made sense, that was easy to follow, and which skill trees were just obtuse and hard to use.
Well, Final Fantasy 12 is both good and bad, but sorry, go ahead.
The thing is, part of the reason that this came up was, one, because they had an update since the last time I played Path of Exile, and so it wiped out my skill tree and I had to start over, and I'm like, I have no idea where I was even going with my character. And the other thing is,
every RPG has that problem. If you miss and you don't play for a while, then you're like, where was I going? I don't...
Exactly. And we had this with the updates from the Old Republic, from that MMO, where they went in and we had to re-level our characters.
Multiple times. Every time I don't play for a month, I have to go back and reset all of the levels on that game. They've got a huge expansion coming out here, but
yeah, they do. The thing is that the skill tree, at least in my opinion, the skill tree from the Old Republic is at least a little better laid out, and it makes more sense to look at it. And I can look at it and see, even if they reset my skills, I can see, okay, I was going up this tree here, and I was going for these skills here, and it was easy to restructure my character. Whereas the Path of Exile thing, I was looking at it going, I have no idea where I was going. There's just too much.
A lot of people complained about the skill tree in the Old Republic because it wasn't complex enough. It wasn't what they wanted it to be. It was sort of straightforward. But to be honest, the people who complain about that are the guys who came from Lord of the Rings Online, and they're like, "It's not a complex enough skill tree, and I need to blah 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 because this isn't the game I wanted or whatever, and I'm gonna cry about it."
Lord of the Rings Online, dude.
Well, yeah, then go play the other game. They dumbed it down even more. It's even dumber now.
Really?
Oh yeah, they changed it because before you would buy, because you would have so many skills and you'd buy into so many skills. Now you just pick your path. And you have very little variability. It's really stupid. It's really bad now. And after that old change thing, I was like, I'm not gonna play. It's not even just I'm not gonna play anymore. It's just I'm not gonna play for a very long time because I don't want to have to relearn the mechanics of a game that took me a long time to figure out anyway.
Right. Now the other reason that I brought this up was because I was curious as to get your reaction to the Battleborn, the way that they've structured that. You
I don't know anything
with Battleborn,
about the game.
You have two skill trees. There's a skill tree that's well, actually, I think they said that there were 3 skill trees. There's a skill tree that applies to all your characters across all your playthroughs and stuff. There's another skill tree that's like a PvP skill tree, and then there's another skill tree that's their Helix skill tree that's specific to the level you're playing. So you can go in and you can you have your skill tree that applies to all your characters across playthroughs that makes your character stronger, whatever else. And then they have this helix system where when you're in a level, you're playing the level, you can actually upgrade your character as you go, and it gives you two options on either side of the helix, and you just go back and forth and pick the skills you feel you need for that particular level. And then when you go to the next level, that skill tree is wiped out and you start over again. What do you think? I'm not sure about it, because it seems to me that
every game has got to make itself unique to seem separate and different to justify it being its own game. Otherwise, you're just like, I'm just playing this other game, but in another universe.
You're playing a clone
or whatever. So they all have to do their own thing. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the game mechanics are justified, sometimes they aren't. I think keeping it fresh and keeping it different is probably more important than making it the most streamlined leveling system. Because otherwise you're just replaying Final Fantasy or something.
Right. But actually, I did see a number of people that so I was trying to find some stuff, and a lot of people liked the leveling system, the sphere grid, they called it, from Final Fantasy X. There were a lot of people that said that they liked that one.
I'm trying to remember 10. I remember 12 really well, and 12 was kind of it was a mess. It was both good and bad. I'm going to summarize it really quickly so I don't spend a lot of time talking about the ins and outs of Final Fantasy 12. So, imagine a skill tree. Now, imagine a skill tree that's just massive. It encompasses every skill you could possibly own in a game. It's just this giant cloud of skills and pathways to the skills all over the freaking place.
Right.
Massive area. Every skill you could possibly have. And then every character, depending on what they start out with their basic skills, let's say one character is more of a healer, they start out in that area on the skill map, or whatever you're going to call it.
Skill map is probably a good
And then as you spend, you sort of like, if you want to stay healer, you sort of spend in the direction of where those healing abilities go within this giant, massive web of where all the skills are. But you could take that healer and be like, well, screw it, I'm just going to go the opposite way across this other area and turn him into like some healing abilities, but another guy who shoots guns or something. just make it weirder. And you can do that. Now that means it's great, because the ability to customize and personalize your guys and stuff is fantastic.
Right.
It's also
you can
bad.
Whatever character you want.
It's also bad because you can make a lot of really bad characters really easily. And the system is way too complex. There's just too much going on. And I know people out there are going to be like, no, it's not complex. What are you, a moron? There's way too much to do. I could have a character just sort of like made a road from one side of the thing to the other and was good at nothing. But I could make that mistake because I don't know. What should I be buying into? It's almost like you need to play through the game, build a bunch of really bad characters, and then play a second time and be like, oh, I'm going to make up for all the mistakes I did on a skill tree that I can't redo.
There were a number of people that commented on that aspect of skill trees. They're like, you almost need to be able to modify the skill tree at any time during the game, because if you don't, this guy said, you force the player to make decisions at the beginning of the game before they're aware of the advantages and disadvantages of each tree within the game itself. And he actually points out Deus Ex. And I remember playing Deus Ex, and I tried to go stealth.
I always go stealth every time, and I was fantastic at it. You just can't beat the bosses.
Exactly, and that's I actually had to beat the boss by getting him to kill himself.
That was the biggest complaint, because stealth was awesome in that game. It worked really well. It read how you were seen and stuff. And then you get to the boss and you can't beat the boss through stealth, and all your combat abilities just blow.
Right.
And you're like, there's nothing I can do now. I can't beat the boss. I'm all stealthy. I'm just the greatest stealth guy ever. My guns suck. I just suck at shooting things.
Yep.
It's like I've got the lowest health in the world because I spent all the time trying to make my foot path it's like hacking really well or something.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me when I played it. Like I said, I don't even remember exactly how I beat the boss, but he had some rocket launcher or something, and I happened to get behind a barrel just in time for it the explosion to kill him and not me. And
Yes.
so I beat him by a fluke, by a stroke of luck.
Well, they addressed.
What was that?
Well, they addressed some of those problems with things like Bloodborne, because the first Bloodborne, or not Bloodborne, the first Dark Souls, it didn't have a skill tree, but you got leveling up, and then you got points, and you spent those points into the different skills, like strength, dexterity, or whatever.
Right.
See, the problem is, a lot of that gets dictated by what items you find, if you find really good item and stuff. But you can level up your character really poorly and then just screw yourself over for the rest of the game. And then it's like, I spent too much into this ability and I can't find any decent weapons for it. My guy sucks. I can't beat the bosses. I don't have enough health. I can't take those points back. Why would I want to restart the game? It's too freaking hard. And in Dark Souls 2, they addressed that issue with... they're like... third item, I can't remember what they're called.
Okay.
And there's a limited supply of them.
Uh-huh.
And you use it, and it completely erases all your points, and you can respend them.
Oh.
So it's not like you have just an infinite amount of them. But then people complain because there were like too many of them. Because there's like 8. And how many times do you really want to respec your character? Less than 8.
Yeah.
Like 3, maybe 4 if you're just playing around. But like 8 is just like, I don't know. I'm just going to change every new boss. I'm going to change my skill set, my skill tree, so I can But giving you that option makes it a lot easier and a lot more comfortable. You don't have to play through multiple times. Because you either do that or you go online and you find like the best way to level up, and then you just copy somebody else's and you don't experience the game in a natural way, the way you're supposed to.
That was another complaint that I came across when I was looking up, some of the skill trees and things. The people that put out these guides as to which is the best and which is the worst, and some of the comments were things like, there shouldn't be a best or a worst path through a skill tree. It should be that every skill
in a perfect world. In a perfect world. But if you played any D&D game, if you spend all your points trying to be good at everything, then you're good at nothing.
Right.
And then you're a useless character.
But the thing is that let's say you spend your points into combat. You spend your skills into stealth. Either way, it should be a valid, good path through the skill tree. It shouldn't be like, I decide to go stealth and then I can't beat the bosses. If I go through combat, I have to fight everything in the game because I can't sneak worth a darn.
Specializing, the game should encourage you to specialize and then figure out ways to beat it in those different ways.
Exactly.
The only problem with stealthing bosses is at that point it becomes too easy and it doesn't justify doing any other skill tree besides the stealth one. It's like I just snuck around the back and stabbed him in the neck. It was my option. I wanted to do that.
Actually, I thought they did pretty well in certain respects with the classes, and this kind of is outside the skill tree, with the Battle for Middle Earth or whatever it was called. If you were sneaky enough, you could pick the rogue type character, sneak up behind the bosses and one shot kill them. Otherwise, you had to slog it through the, dodging around them with the mage or the warrior.
Oh, the PS3 game.
Yeah, that one.
It's not Battle for Middle Earth. It's something else.
You're
you're right though. You can be the stealth guy and just one shot the bosses,
which
is hilarious.
Because if you're not careful, that boss will take you down.
Oh yeah, you'll just die easily, and they die easier than everybody else. Yeah. But it's like if somebody's distracting him and you can get in there, you can just, and then he's done. You ever hear that? We might have talked about this on the podcast forever ago, but you ever hear that awkward story about Christopher, the guy who played Saruman?
Okay, Christopher Lee.
About him talking about that whole scene, because on the special edition they filmed a scene where he was on top of Orthanc.
Uh-huh.
And Wormtongue comes up behind. This is out after he lost everything and they flooded the place. Wormtongue comes up behind him and stabs him in the back. And he falls off the top of the tower and then just dies. And in the normal version, he doesn't die in the movie. He just sort of like, they keep him up there forever because he's useless and he can't do anything to anybody. And in the special edition, he was like killed by Wormtongue. He comes up and just stabs him in the back. I guess trying to make up for stuff so that they like didn't take it out on him. He's like, see, I killed him or whatever. So here's the awkward part.
Okay.
They're talking to him. It's like, we want you to make a noise sort of like this or whatever when you get stabbed. And this. He goes, no, that's not what it sounds like. And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, that's not what it sounds like when a guy gets stabbed in the back and it pierces his lung. You guys, they sort of do like this big intake, like that sort of thing. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, we'll just believe you. He served in commando units in World War II. And if anybody knows what it sounds like when a man is stabbed in the back and his lungs are pierced, it's apparently Christopher Lee. So believe him when he says that's not the sound a man makes when he's stabbed in the back with a knife.
That would be so awkward.
And I loved how when they talked about it, because they're like, we just went, oh, okay, we'll do that or whatever. Like, we just believed him because we're like, we're not going to second guess him. He served in World War II.
Behind us and stab us in the back to prove it.
He was literally a guy who probably stabbed a guy in the back in World War II and killed him. He's like, yeah, I know what it sounds like. Like, what a specialized knowledge that is to know what it sounds like when somebody dies to get stabbed in the back with a knife.
Yeah.
Which makes him more impressive. It's like not only
kind of scary.
Not only does he know how to stab people in the back, but he's in like most of the major like trilogies and stuff. He was in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. He's in any movie that needs a deep voiced character or an old man. Just a decrepit old man.
I'm trying to remember. I watched a movie that he did when he was younger, and it was interesting to see him.
Yeah, we were supposed to buy in Star Wars that this decrepit old man was equal in ability to a petulant teenager. And was able to beat him in some way. And then a frog shows up and then just beats the old man. There's a balance. I don't know. And George Lucas argued the reason why in the original trilogy that the fight with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker wasn't as dynamic as the prequels, because you were dealing with an untrained Jedi and an old man, an injured, crippled old man. And I was like, that's fair, but Christopher Lee was an old man, and he still thought like he was awesome. And somehow the part cyborg was able to defeat all of the other Jedi being a crippled old man.
That's true.
So his argument doesn't hold weight or water. It's just him justifying why the other ones didn't have as cool lightsaber battles.
Which kind of goes to just show you that he doesn't understand his own movies.
No, he doesn't.
Anyway. So, I don't know. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really sold on the active passive skills for Path of Exile. The Path of Exile active skills are a little bit different. Instead of like paying into a skill tree, the skill tree in Path of Exile is all passive. It doesn't give you any active abilities, but at least as far as I can tell. But what you do in Path of Exile instead for your active abilities is you equip gems in your armor and your weapons, and then you map them so that you can use them in combat. And as you gain experience, your gems gain experience too, so they level up as well, which is kind of odd. I mean, whatever way you want to do it to differentiate yourself from all the other MMOs out there, but I do like the Borderlands skill trees, the way that they did those. Maybe it's an oversimplified skill tree, but it was pretty straightforward. It's like I figured out which skills would most benefit me as
Uh,
in my chosen play
The Old
style.
Republic did that sort of thing as well, where you had the
Very
three
true.
pathways, and if
Uh-huh.
you specialized in a pathway, those skills sort of like reinforced one another and helped
Right.
out one another. Like getting
Right.
more into this skill tree helped out those skills, but you could jump across to different ones if you wanted ability from a different like pathway, because
Right.
the skill trees were sort of open in that way.
And that's the skill trees from Borderland were kind of active passive skill trees too. You got both abilities as you were going through. Um, some of the other ones that it pointed out here that they liked, Dead Island skill tree,
It wasn't bad.
Witcher 2 skill tree,
Witcher 2 is pretty good.
the heron, the shark, and the spider in Far Cry 3. I'm not sure how that.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. Sort of
So-
basic for a action shooter sort of game. I've
How
played and
was-
beaten all of those.
How is that? Is it like you pick your play style, heron, shark, or spider, and then?
Yeah, you sort of spend into those areas. I'm having trouble picturing it because when you think of a game, you don't think of what the skill tree was.
That's true. That's
You think
true.
of what you did or the fun moments. You don't think, skill tree. But I remember thinking it was pretty good or passable. I don't remember it very well. Very, very infrequently do I remember skill trees. Like Final Fantasy 12, I remember because it was so freaking big.
Yeah, it's the ones that stick out in your mind because either they made it so that it was hard to play the game, or it was so complex that you spent a lot of time trying to figure it out.
You know
Those
what's
are the ones that stick out, whereas the ones that made the gameplay smooth, you're just like, okay, this is the skill tree. It's smooth. I don't need to worry about it. You know.
You know what's bad? Final Fantasy Tactics. It's clever, straightforward, and it's not really hard to figure out, but it's also really hard to figure out.
Yeah,
I love Final Fantasy
was
Tactics.
a little bit,
I think
yeah.
it's a fantastic game, one of my favorites. But still, man, that skill tree. Like I have to use a guide to figure out where I'm going with my leveling.
Right.
I literally have to be like, okay, here's my book. Where am I going with it?
So if there's any skill trees that you thought were particularly good or bad, let us know. We'll talk about them. We'll, say what we thought of them.
Film a
We'll
rebuttal
probably-
video.
What was that?
Film a rebuttal video and
Yeah,
complain
there you
about a
And
response
we'll
to
tell
our
you how
skill
wrong you
tree.
are.
A response to our skill tree YouTube thing.
Right now, we're going to move on and talk about our next battle in our legendary battle of classic video game characters.
Getting hyped, everybody.
Yeah,
Let's
get
all
hyped.
excited.
Get excited. Tonight,
That was the most disingenuous get hyped, get excited from Jason. You were almost
I was-
angry, like, you get hyped. Dang it.
I was shouting at them.
Yeah.
I was using my capital letters.
Chance, you be excited about this.
I don't care if you don't like it, Chance. You will be excited about it. Get that?
I like when we did the action heroes. He's like, I couldn't care less. And I was like, you're going to suck it up. You're going to take every argument we have and you're going to like it. And he's like, I'm not going to like it.
He liked the first one.
The first one.
with the comic book characters the most.
We will never please him. Maybe we'll roll back to comic book characters. But we did so much with it. We would have to specialize like the X-Men or, for it
Yeah.
to be any interesting at that point. And then it's
Yeah.
just that one X-Men that can like control matter and he just wins. That or like the Phoenix.
Right.
It's like, well, why did we even do this? This is stupid.
We'd have to go through and get all the telepaths and do a battle of the telepaths kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's like every time you have a big debate about superheroes, it always comes down to like your Superman and the Silver Surfer and the
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. Like the big heavy hitters. It always comes down to those guys. Your Doctor Doom is in there and the Doomsday. And it never becomes interesting because it always comes down to does Superman win or not? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Superman wastes everybody he's fighting against, unless he's in that one random match where he's fighting against some sorcerer or something.
Any word from Comic Vine?
Yeah, we did get some.
The nutcases over there. Do you ever actually link them to anything, or they just assume that?
No, I put in our.
I wonder if we get any traffic from them. If you listen to this from Comic Vine and you want to make a comment, don't go to the CompuServe email. Email us at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com.
I put
because the other email doesn't exist. I'm sorry.
The thing is that when I create these forum posts, you can't put at least I can't see where it is. But when I try to put a link, it always tries to make me link to something else on Comic Vine rather than like linking to our website.
Yeah, they don't want you to spread the word of other stuff. It just circles back to Comic Vine. It's like
to put the distractedgamers.com on the post, and so that,
it's like the GameStop thing that's been happening, the Circle of Life thing. You know what I'm talking about? Really quick, GameStop has said that they're going to stop selling consoles bundled with digital games.
Okay.
So they're not going to sell a game that already has like a console that already has like a digital game with it and stuff. And everyone went, "Oh, that's interesting," and that's more in favor of people who prefer straight print media or whatever as opposed to the digital versions. And that's fine and all. But somebody actually speculated, and I think more correctly, that if they sell a lot of digital, then physical copies aren't out there that won't eventually be sold back to them that they can sell again. Because of their used game market. So it's almost a circle of life. They won't sell digital games because they want you to buy the physical copy, get bored with it, sell it back to them so that they can sell it to another dope.
Yeah.
I was like, that's probably the better plan. They want to keep the physical medium still existing within that universe.
Right. Exactly. So tonight our matchup is between Sonic the Hedgehog and Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat.
And what does Comic Vine have to say about it?
Well, let's see. So, since these are classic versions, I'm assuming the video games. In the game, Liu didn't have much space to move around, same as Sonic. It would be funny if Sonic does a spin dash and Liu bicycle kick into it and get sliced up. I say Sonic.
At least he came up with a legit argument as opposed to just because he's awesome or whatever.
Yeah. He's like, but Liu Kang can win as well.
Liu Kang can summon a dragon.
True.
Like he turns into a dragon and bites your head off. And then there's blood come out of your neck.
Most of the other ones are like, this one says Sonic wins, classic version. I think Sonic, as he's short enough, the fireballs would go over his head, and his spin attack seems, in my opinion, more effective than the flying kick.
He moves really fast, but the problem with the spin attack is there's a build-up. You kind of have to like before you can go.
He has to get running before he can just go into the spin attack, or he has to charge it up. But yeah, this next one, Impervious. The first one that I read was from Storm Phoenix, and then Tifa Lockhart posted the Sonic is shorter. He'll go under the fireballs. Impervious said, "Isn't Liu Kang too slow?" Which is saying something considering the fact that Kang is generally considered to be one of the fastest members of the MK roster to hit Sonic. And then Amendment 50, he responds to Impervious. He says, "I don't know, classic Sonic's just a fast hedgehog. I don't think he's stated as to be faster than the speed of sound or anything like that he is now." The last one...
Yeah, that's literally part of his newer theme song.
Yeah. Overlord Arthas...
Moving as fast as the speed of sound. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Overlord Arthas posted, "Super Saiyan Hedgehog for the win."
Super Saiyan Hedgehog beats kind of everybody.
Yeah.
He has the power of all the Chaos Emeralds. Duh.
But we're not doing Super Saiyan Hedgehog. This is classic version, so no Chaos.
You collect all of the Chaos Emeralds. No joke, Jason. You collect them all. Your character turns yellow. His hair gets spikier, and his eyes turn blue. Now, either this is him copying the whole Akira Toriyama Dragon Ball Z characters,
right?
Or there's something to be said for the weird obsessive fascination that Japanese have with the Aryan race.
That's true.
Because they love the blonde. It's like, imagine it, this Japanese guy levels up in Dragon Ball Z, becomes more powerful, and gets blonde hair and blue eyes. That's just a little creepy. It's a little weird. I was like, you guys are more into the Aryans than the Germans are currently.
But the Japanese weren't trying to exterminate anyone to promote the Aryans.
They definitely allied with them.
Yeah, very true.
Racism.
So, what do we think here? Is Sonic going to carry this, or is Liu Kang going to defeat Sonic? Sonic is fast, possibly faster than Liu Kang if he can get in range and spin dash him.
Liu Kang
He might stand a chance to
Liu Kang won like the first 3 or 4 or something Mortal Kombat tournaments when he was around.
A tough guy.
And he's beating
and able to combat.
And then he died, and then Shang Tsung brought him back to life.
Of course,
and fought for the evil side, and now he has glowy eyes. I think it was Shang Tsung or the other wizard dude. It doesn't matter at this point. Shang Tsung probably did the
bad
other
guy now.
Yeah, well, he's fighting as the undead Liu Kang. As opposed to part of the normal, like, we're part of the good side Liu Kang.
Right. I wonder if he ends up like Nightmare, where if he wins the tournament, he throws off the evil part of his soul, and he comes back as the righteous vengeance of Liu Kang and becomes good again.
Well, that's what's so entertaining about Mortal Kombat is it's implied that people just die all the time in Mortal Kombat. And so they finally established like canon deaths where these original characters are just dead now. They're dead. Mm-hmm. One of the only ones from the original cast, the original good guy cast, Johnny Cage, is still alive. He's older now, and he has a kid.
Right.
Like in Mortal Kombat 10. Right? Yeah, he's in the tournament. But he has a kid now as opposed to just, I'm Johnny Cage.
No, I thought Johnny Cage's kid was in the tournament.
They don't have a tournament in 10. They just sort of like, they're fighting each other. They're like, somebody's invading the other planet, there's not a tournament.
Oh.
So they just have fights. Cassie Cage, that's her name.
Yeah, she's...
But there were a bunch of people, like Jax and a few others, that just flat out died. Just a bad and good side. And they were all resurrected by this wizard dude and brought back to fight for him. And they're all just like the undead versions of themselves. Where they're just super fighting and they have all their same abilities. They're just evil now.
Mm. Well, if you come back as an undead, you're evil. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, Walking Dead. On the Sonic side, he's really fast. And that's always...
I do like... let's see, what was... It was Storm Phoenix. I do like his comment of Sonic does a spin dash at Liu, and he does the bicycle kick and just gets split. I do like that.
It's the opposing forces spinning on each other. Sonic's greatest strength is he's going to be fast, and he's going to go fast, and he's going to run into him with the speed. Liu Kang... How he counters that is going to have to be a fireball, but multiple people argued that Sonic passes below it because he's so flippin' short. So the other argument would be he pulls off some sort of big ability.
His fireball's a little better than that.
If we're talking classic Liu Kang, then he shoots straight, and the only way to avoid it is to duck.
True.
Or jump it, or whatever. The other argument would be that Liu Kang can turn into a dragon and bite your head off, and he's also... of the fighters, probably one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, of the fighters. But that doesn't say much for the rest of them if Liu Kang can be beaten by a hedgehog. I want to lean Sonic because I have a Sonic bias, but I think that also makes my vote a little less legitimate because of my Sonic bias.
I didn't know who I wanted to win this match. I do like some of the comments from Comic Vine, and it's kind of gotten me leaning towards Sonic. You point out that Liu Kang can turn into a dragon,
Yeah,
But
it's
is
one
the
of his
dragon gonna be
finishers.
fast enough to catch the hedgehog?
I don't know. It's one of his finishers, and the only thing he did with the finisher is he turned into a dragon and he bit the guy's head off. And that's usually when he's standing there sort of waving around like he's drunk or something. You know, like they have that finishing moments like finish him. Then you have an
Right.
inordinate amount of time to set up your move to finish the guy. Potentially put your fist into his chest and then pull out his heart.
There were only a few finishing moves in Mortal Kombat that I could master. There were just some that were just way too complex.
On the level with the really deep pit and the spikes at the bottom, you uppercut the guy and he falls off. I could get
Right.
that every time.
Right.
Mainly because the uppercut is the most powerful ability in Mortal Kombat.
Scorpion's final fatality. Scorpion's
Where
fatality
he takes
was
off his
pretty-
mask and blows fire at him and then they
Yeah.
burn to death.
That one was pretty easy to do, and so was Sonya Blade's Kiss of Death. Those two were pretty easy to do.
Is that the one where she spins her fan and just cuts him in half?
No, Sonya, and maybe Blade isn't her name. I thought it was. She like kisses her hand and then blows, and this like little tiny thing floats over, and then they like burst into flames when it hits them. Katana's
Maybe.
the one with the fan.
Yeah, maybe. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think Liu Kang has a legitimate excuse as a great fighter to win this fight. He's a massive martial artist. He's one of the most powerful. He's implied to be very fast. It's just Sonic, as a rule, is just going to be faster unless some guy's in a jet. Like, unless Liu Kang's flying by in an F-16. Sonic's probably going to be faster overall.
Sorry, Liu Kang doesn't get an F-16 for this battle. Just his fists.
I guess. It feels stupid because I feel like Liu Kang's a master martial artist, but Sonic's really fast. And you gotta go fast. That's implied with the whole catchphrase anyway. You gotta go fast.
Right.
So I don't know. It feels weird, but I'm gonna say Sonic.
Well, I guess Sonic wins this one then. Liu Kang is out of our tournament. Sonic pushes ahead. And let's see. In our next battle, we have the Prince of Persia versus Simon Belmont. In this case, the Prince of Persia from the original trilogy, not from the Sands of Time and forward. The original trilogy.
The really bad 2D side scrollers.
Yeah, the really bad 2D side scroller. So
Yeah.
Sonic moves on. Sorry, those of you out there rooting for Liu Kang, but Sonic pushes ahead.
You should have argued for his case better.
Yeah.
It's your fault. Literally, he's dead. It's your fault.
You could have saved him, but you didn't, people.
You're gonna have to live with the guilt for years to come. The legendary battle guilt.
So that's it for.
We should make this permanent. When people die in the tournaments, they die forever. Like they'll never appear in another tournament. Like they're just gone.
Unless we make it the undead tournament, then we could bring him back.
Yeah, the zombie tournament. Zombie Liu Kang comes back and beats Zombie Sonic.
There you go.
I don't know why Zombie Liu Kang was better skilled than Zombie Sonic, but I don't know. You
Zombie
can't move
Sonic
fast.
Had lost a step, you know.
Well, you can't move fast when you're Zombie Sonic.
Right, but Zombie Liu Kang can move fast.
Like he does the spin dash and just stuff flies off of him as he's spinning.
It's more the spin splatter now rather than the spin dash.
Touche.
Anything else you want to say before we call this a night?
I have a stupid observation. I have to
Go
look
ahead.
at my mug while we play this game so I can see if people are streaming and stuff. And I could tell, looking at myself, I've known this for a while. So, talking to the girls in class, the class I helped teach during the day,
Right.
one of them was like, "Man, you're kind of scary, Red, or whatever." It's like, I'm not scary. I just look like I'm pissed off all the time and I have a shaved head. And then she's like, "No, it's called having a resting bitch face." And I'm sitting here looking at myself, and I was like, I super have a resting bitch face. It's not that I'm actually angry. It's just if I just sort of in my camera unfocused,
and you just kind of relax into an angry.
Yeah,
face.
girls get it a lot, but if I just relax, I'm just sitting here blank staring. Yeah, I look pissed off. I'm just constantly angry. Hence the curmudgeonly attitude. But honestly, I'm not the cheeriest guy anyway, so go to hell.
Man.
That's to leave you with.
Yeah, there you go.
Rhett's perpetual pissed off, angry look on his face.
Words to live by for the rest of this week.
You'll think about it forever. Like one week from now, you'll be...
Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a contact. We'll slaughter your email as we read it to the rest of the people out there.
Jason will.
Yeah. And Rhett will ridicule you, for your...
I have to.
Yeah.
It's part of the law. It's federal law. I have to ridicule you. Even if I don't know you, it's like, there's a guy out there listening right now. Man, you loser. Pick a better podcast. Pick one that's more entertaining than this one. What's wrong with you? Then chances like I'm sorry. I don't know. I wanted to listen to a better podcast. I kind of sold my soul. There was this blood pact, and you guys made me listen. I was like, that's right, we did.
Blood. You signed it, that oath in blood.
It was the laziest of ceremonies. We're like,
we sent
mail
it to the mail. He signed it in blood, sent it back to us.
But Chance was too lazy and put his son blood in the thing, and then now his son is like cursed forever.
He couldn't be bothered that day.
He's cursed with
He would have been all for it,
Yeah. Cursed with the bad grades. You know what Chance gets cursed with? He gets cursed with the fact that he's now constantly aware that he curses too much. That's the curse that we inflict upon Chance. That's the ancient blood pact from the secret Utah evil stuff. That's why I shaved my head, so that you don't automatically think I have horns. Anyway, let's get out of here.
All right, that's it for tonight. We'll see you later.
Bye.